So Nebraska looked the part, 40-7, the final score. Spencer, they were playing UTEP. That's a rebuilding Conference USA team under first-year head coach Scotty Walden. Okay, fact check true. The Miners don't have big expectations for this year. But in watching Nebraska football over the years, I can't help but wonder, have they finally turned a corner? Because how many times has Nebraska underperformed? How many times has Nebraska failed to deliver what they are capable of? How many times have they been just short or beat or lost to a team that they should beat? They beat UTEP 40-7. Dylan Raiola over 200 yards, couple touchdowns, no interceptions in the ball game. That is a great sign. That is a great sign. And look, Dylan Raiola will have bigger challenges ahead, to be sure. But to think that Nebraska didn't show something in their first game, it's something. Not everything, but something. We're going to learn a lot more about Nebraska in week 2 because Colorado's coming to town. And last year, when Nebraska went to Colorado, they lost the game 36-14. Jeff Sims was the quarterback. It wasn't pretty. Colorado was better, start to finish. Start to finish, Colorado was better. And guess what? Colorado is a better football team than they were last year. And so is Nebraska. So is Nebraska. People were commenting about Colorado when I reacted to their game on Thursday night, saying, man, were you watching the same game? Colorado was sloppy. Colorado was and I just went, excuse me, hold on. I said Colorado was better than last year. You know why? Because Colorado is better than last year. They looked better against North Dakota State. That doesn't mean I thought they looked like they're ready to go 12-0, run the Big 12, and go to the college football playoff, because they are not. But last year they were a 4-8 football team after a hot start in the non-conference slate. And, well, Colorado State wasn't a great performance. But TCU, Nebraska, those were legit wins. On the road, at home, great performances. What exactly does better mean to you? Because to me it means you're not as bad as you were last year. And that's what Colorado is going to be. So if you have a team that is capable of making a bowl game, that's going to be a legitimate test. Now, Nebraska is 6.5, 7-point favorite roughly in this game. That number could be a little bit too high. I'll have my official prediction later in the week, but we're going to learn about Nebraska, who I have pretty high hopes for coming into the season. Not as a playoff team, not as a Big Ten dark horse contender, but they have a favorable schedule. They have a good defense with a great defensive staff, and they have a quarterback who is a mega talent, of course, but he just has to be capable. He just has to be serviceable. And if he is that in his true freshman season, which is how he looked against the Miners, then guess what? Nebraska's going to be a pretty darn good team. But we will learn against Colorado. You can say UTEP is not a legitimate data point because it's a Conference USA team that's rebuilding. Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying I once saw Nebraska lose a game to Georgia Southern. So progress has been made. Again, same discussion like with Colorado. Better than it used to be. But they're not this. I just said better than they used to be. Because they are. They are. That's how they look to me. So if they're a better team than they were last season, then they're going to get a more legitimate test this week against Colorado. That's going to be a really, really fun game in Lincoln. Crowd's probably going to be on fire. You'll get plenty of attention because it's Colorado, and of course you will get plenty of attention, but Dylan Raiola is going up against a defense that has a couple playmakers like Travis Hunter or guys along the defensive line. I thought looked much better for Colorado than they did a season ago, but certainly it's a gettable defense. We saw that with North Dakota State, who put up 26 points. But if Nebraska goes out and wins this game, 31-20 or somewhere in that range, I'm not going to do the reverse Colorado and say, oh, see, Colorado wasn't actually any good. No, Colorado's just fine. Nebraska's just a good team. So I think this is a really, really fun matchup going into week 2. I think that Nebraska has the opportunity to showcase that they have exercised some of those demons from the past. Not all of them because it's still early in the year. You got to play the rest of that schedule out, but it's pretty favorable. If you win this game against Colorado, I'd feel very, very good about the Cornhuskers if I were a Nebraska fan. Flipping gears here, changing gears, shifting gears. That's probably the correct word. The group of 5 is getting a team into the playoff. And when you hear that discussion, you think of Boise State, you think of maybe Fresno State, you think of Tulane, you think of Memphis, you think of UTSA. You might need to be thinking about UNLV. So the Rebels went into Houston, and I thought they'd win the game as a slight underdog to the Cougars, who are in complete and total rebuild mode, could very well go 0-12 this year. That's a realistic possibility when you look at their schedule. UNLV was arguably, along with Rice, who they played in a couple weeks, their most winnable game. And there are other ones that Houston could end up winning. You know, Baylor, don't know if they're great this year. At BYU last week of the regular season. But everybody else, I mean, maybe at Cincinnati, but on the road, I don't know. They've got Oklahoma this week. Good luck to the Cougars. But UNLV went into Houston and boat raced Willie Fritz's team. It's not a good situation. It's going to take a couple of years to build Houston into a respectable Big 12 program. Willie Fritz can do it. He just doesn't have the team this year. Still, that's a Big 12 team. That's pretty close to a Big 12 roster. Maybe not as close as they'd like to be. But UNLV went in there out of the Mountain West, ran them out of the building on their home field. Long trip, doesn't matter. Houston to Vegas, probably a pretty easy flight to make, and they made it look easy. And UNLV in this game, they win by a final score 27-7. You know what my number one question was about Houston, or not about Houston, sorry, about UNLV coming into this year? What are you going to get at the quarterback position? Well, turns out they're just going to run the football a bunch. 48 carries for 203 yards for the Rebels in this game. 200 rushing yards. Matthew Sluka started at quarterback. He goes 6 of 13 for 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. I don't know how sustainable that is. Can you attempt 13 passes and win a lot of games on your schedule? UNLV plays Utah Tech at home this week. They're not going to have any problem there. That's an FCS opponent. But September 13th, that's not this coming Friday, but next Friday, that's when we will learn. Like, anytime a G5 beats a Power 4 school, it should raise some eyebrows, especially a team like UNLV that's preseason number 2 or 3 team to win the Mountain West this year. If they go through their schedule, and they wind up with a 10-2 record, and they appear in the Mountain West Championship game and win said game, you could look at UNLV as a playoff team. Barry Odom has got them cooking right now. They play Kansas next Friday. That's going to be a major test. Played them in the bowl game last year. Kansas won, but Fresno State and Syracuse up after that. Watch for that Syracuse game as well, because that's at home. That is in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium on Friday, October 4th. They play at Oregon State on October 19th. They play Boise State on October 25th. Those are the games that are going to let you know, along with Kansas. So you have a 3 games and a 4-game stretch. They play at at Utah State on Friday, October 11th, sandwiched in there as well. But Syracuse at Oregon State hosts Boise State. If you end up winning 2 or 3 of those games, look out for the Rebels, because I will repeat this from now until the 12-team playoff, just so nobody's surprised and you can't say I didn't warn you. The G5 is getting a team into the college football playoff, and you got to keep UNLV on your radar. See how they play against Kansas next week, and if they're competitive in that game, but lose, but look good doing it, I don't know. Kind of got a schedule that's comparable to the other G5s. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.